First of all, I'd like to commend Baker Creek. I'm buying all my seeds from them right now. If you need to buy large quantities, I'm not sure if they have large quantities or not, but Johnny's has large quantities. Like say you want to, grow lettuce and sell it at the farmer's market. You probably want to get it at Johnny's. You're going to save a little money. But anyway, you can see how I wrote on here, 425.24. That's my first patch of corn. Then the second one, I actually didn't write it down on this, but it's 2 weeks later. And then I'm planting yesterday because what I did is I soaked the seeds in water. And I'll show you right here. I just put it in a little Ziploc, a little water for a couple hours, and then dumped out most of the water and just left a little in there. And you can see that they're already starting to germinate. Otherwise, corn is so big and dry, you put that in the ground, you got to have a lot of water to make it germinate. So, why do I buy my seeds at Baker Creek? Because they have heirloom seeds, which means you can grow these, save a tomato, save the seeds, and grow your own tomatoes with your own seeds the following year. So writing down the planting date is a must for corn because it tells you on the package how many days it's going to take to grow. So when you get within 5 days of that number or that date, you start checking the corn yourself. And I had another video that shows you how to do that. Just to show you, this is just a small piece of corn that was on the bottom. The way to really do this is grab the best piece of corn you have that you've grown and use it because it's going to have the DNA to grow the best corn you can get. But from Baker Creek, I never had a problem. This is one of the corn ears that's down lower that the pollen doesn't get to, so they end up coming out small. So I just took this ear of corn and put a clip on it and hung it in my shed out of the sun, and it's not completely dry yet. And you can see there's like a piece of mold right there. But I'm just using this as an example. I don't really do this, but if there was ever an emergency where you couldn't get seeds, but you still had some left over from the year before, you could do this. Okay, so how do you know how deep to plant it? Well, it says right on the package, seed depth 1 to 2 inches. Well, here we're going to be in a tray, so we're just going to do it 1 inch. And I made a little popsicle stick here, fudgesicle, and I just lined a ruler up with it and put some lines on it. This one's 1 inch, that's a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. So we can just take this and push it right into the soil until it comes up to that line. Then you know it's down 1 inch. And from there you can just cover it up. And of course, before you put your seeds in here, you want to get this as moist as you can by filling it with water. The bottom will actually hold water. And I left mine overnight. And then, when you want to plant, you dump all the water out onto some plant that could use, the nutrients in here. So this is a 50 cell tray. And for different vegetables, you use different size tray. trays. Most of the time people will plant these directly into the soil because it's springtime and the soil is already wet. But since it's very dry right now, we're going to do it this way, and then in about a week I'll have to transplant these into the ground. But I can space them perfectly, which is 1 foot between each corn stalk and then 3 feet between each row. And what I do is just make a 10-foot square, 10 or 12, and then divide it up to where everything's spaced good. The reason for that is so you have good pollination. The pollen needs to get down to where the corn is. So this is golden bantam 12 row. And what they mean by 12 row, 12 rows of kernels, not 12 rows of plants that you need to plant. So that's that. So you saw your neighbor's corn and it's 12 foot tall, and you wonder how come my corn is only 3 feet tall. Well, it could be that the type of corn. This one gets 10 to 12 foot in height. Some other corn that I have gets 3 feet. So don't be discouraged that way if your corn is small. But what it loves is nitrogen, so if you have poor soil, you might want to put some fertilizer in there with nitrogen in it. Why is the corn so tall? It's the variety, and plus I gave it everything it needs to grow at its full potential, which means compost. I don't use any pesticides. I actually didn't use any fertilizers either. Yeah, I don't really use commercial fertilizers. I try to buy organic pellets, which end up having things like chicken manure and maybe a little nitrogen in there, rabbit pellets. I don't use any pesticides. I try to grow as organic as possible. And there's that beautiful view.